Are you thinking that you have to invest in a DSLR or mirrorless camera just to have good video? Well, hold that thought. In this video, we'll explain how a simple gimbal can take your smartphone footage from amateur to professional without having to break the bank. Zhiyun reached out and sent over their new gimbal for us to check out. And as someone who has only used bigger gimbals, I wanted to see how good our footage can actually look. You see, much camera gear these days are becoming more affordable, and a lot more affordable gear is getting good. And because of that, it's becoming much easier to encourage anyone and everyone to create with what they already have, plus some few accessories to help with it. So even if you can't afford newer and better cameras, more often than not, I can still strongly recommend people just use their phones. If you can make enough videos with your phone and continue to improve your skills, you'll make something better than anyone who's using this for their first camera. If you can be faithful with little, you can also be faithful with much. But has Zhiyun really given us that extra oomph to make our videos better by making this camera tool? Let's find out. By the way, although Zhiyun did send me their new Smooth 5S AI Pro Combo Gimbal, this video is not sponsored by them. So thank you to those who continue to support me by watching these videos and even use my affiliate links at no extra cost to you, of course. So what are we really getting when we receive this gimbal? In the box, we got a nice padded case, one side to house the gimbal and the other side to hold some USB-C cables. In regards to the gimbal itself, we got a plastic build with some rubber on top, and it's nice and light to also help with affordability as well as function. So if you happen to go ahead and drop this, it's still gonna be solid and it'll still be all in one piece. If you look closely, you'll notice that there are plenty of dials and buttons and wheels on this handle. We've got things like the standard power button, record button, but of course Zhiyun also gave us more of a pro experience by giving us this side wheel here, which is meant for zooming in and out. This is handy if you have extra lenses, but besides that, we have an on gimbal light that we can turn on by pressing and holding the center button. We have this rotary dial for going through in-app menus, and of course the joystick. I think it's pretty slick how they use the mode display to light up when you switch between them. PF is for pan follow mode, which is good for panning motions from left to right and vice versa, while keeping the up and down tilt motion locked in. Locked mode is pretty good for pushing in and pushing out shots, as well as maybe side tracking shots as well. And pretty much in locked mode, it just has all your axes locked in to prevent too much motion in the shot. F is for follow mode, the opposite of locked mode, which allows for good tracking shots, whether from side to side or up and down, or a combination of both. So if you want to do things like a parallax shot, this is the mode to use. Next, we got POV mode, or point of view mode, which imitates any direction or motion that you swing your gimbal. You could even tilt on a more diagonal kind of motion if that's something that you want to go for. And if you go ahead and hold the trigger down, it'll go into what they call the go mode, which is pretty similar to the POV mode, but much crazier and less smooth. And if you really need to, we got V for vortex mode, which allows us to go ahead and hold our gimbal like a flashlight and then allow for clockwise or counterclockwise spinning while pushing in and out of our shot, like so. One of the luxuries that I first noticed when setting up this gimbal is that compared to a traditional one-handed gimbal for DSLR and mirrorless cameras, this one is even quicker to balance and use right away. Just go ahead and unlock each of your axes, first one being this orange one. You can go ahead and push that to the side, and now we can move this. And then the rest are just physically stuck. You just need to go ahead and push and pull them apart. So now we can easily snap that away, and then mount our camera by holding onto our phone clamp. And there we go. And just power on the gimbal and it should balance out well. You just need to go ahead and maybe adjust this ever so slightly to make sure that the horizontal is nice and balanced. Done. If you look closely at the phone clamp, you'll notice that there are two spots here for mounting on any modules, but more on that later. Fortunately, Zhiyun does also provide a standard mini tripod feet to be able to balance your phone properly, as well as set down your overall setup when not in use. Despite not having much experience with phone gimbals, this very much functions like the bigger ones that I have already used. It pans, it tilts, it even does the vortex mode while still being stable and smooth with each and every shot that I take. Where Zhiyun went beyond is in their AI technology and accessories on the gimbal. But more on my actual real world experience in a little bit. How the AI module is supposed to work is when you are in front of the sensor here or module, you make all these gestures, whether it's the peace sign or this box, and it's supposed to respond accurately. For example, while standing far from your phone, we can start tracking with the OK gesture. To stop tracking, we can just hold out our palm in frame. Another way to track yourself is just to go ahead and make a box with your hands like so. And then of course, if you want to take a picture or record a video, hold out the peace sign or V sign, whatever you want to call it, and it'll do such. If you don't want to spend extra on the AI module, do know that you can also track yourself using the selfie screen or the front camera. You just have to go ahead and drag over a box over yourself when you're using your screen. Aside from the AI tech that it can come with, on the gimbal itself is a built-in light. You just go ahead and press the center button and it'll turn on. If I use a second light module, yes, it'll go ahead and turn on as well. When you get the Pro version, they do send you both the AI module and the additional light that can be magnetically clipped on the phone clamp. The Pro version also includes magnetic gels to use with the light for different colors. Just note that when you're using this horizontally, yes, you can have 2 spots for mounting different modules, but when you're using portrait mode, you only get 1. Because as soon as you start mounting this thing vertically, you start to lose the one side as it's already too close to the arm. So you'll have to decide between wanting an extra light or using the AI module. Pro tip though, when you want to get low shots, I highly recommend having the camera on the bottom so you can have more of a dynamic shot, so that as you're going across on the ground, you can get more of the ground moving past you or moving behind you, whichever direction that you want to go, and it'll look way cooler. But if you don't trust yourself to keep your camera getting scratched up, then forget what I said. If you're just using the gimbal as is, we don't need to use any apps, but if we really want to maximize all the buttons, we can pair this gimbal to our phone wirelessly through Bluetooth and use Zhiyun's 2 apps. One being the ZY Cami app, which is simple yet very capable as a companion app that I would recommend to most users. Then the second one is the StayCam app, which is similar to the ZY Cami app, but allows for more monitoring tools like LUTs, zebra lines, waveform, and more. Unfortunately, to access these tools, you have to sign up for and subscribe to Zhiyun's Prime Plus, which I'll mention more about later. In terms of Bluetooth pairing, it's seamless and easy to connect after you set up your account for the first time. But anyway, what's it like to really operate this gimbal from the most basic to the more advanced kind of experience? If you bought the standard edition of this device, you can use it for steady footage by cycling through the different modes on the handle. No app needed. However, if you start recording yourself, perhaps you want to get started using one of the apps. So once you sign up for your own account and start using the ZY Cami app, you can start maximizing the handle to control your camera menu and settings. If you hit the menu button, you'll see that there are different shooting templates free to use, where the gimbal will also move in preset ways for you to move while you make your video. There are scenarios that act as shot guides for you to follow, so you can do things like walk into frame as the gimbal is automatically tilting down or panning left to right, and it's all in a nice, smooth motion. You can also make your own template. I just didn't have the time to try and set it up. So far, we haven't needed to use the AI module, but if you want to track yourself, you can go ahead and use the front camera of your phone and make sure that you enable the gesture toggle so that you can go ahead and enable the tracking feature through the stop and start gestures. We can enable recording and tracking by using the peace sign, and then stopping both actions by showing our palm. This is all in the ZY Cami app, but if you want to get more advanced, then you'll go ahead and use the StayCam app as mentioned before. But if you're not picky, the ZY Cami app is more than enough. I ended up using the basic ZY Cami app as it's really everything that I need in terms of manual exposure control like aperture, shutter speed, ISO, as well as having grid lines. When it came to testing out the AI module, I was impressed at how responsive things were. It took maybe 2 to 3 seconds for this module to go ahead and recognize each of my gestures and blink green in response. And it follows me pretty well at a good distance, but as soon as I went and turned around, showed the back of my head, then the AI would lose me. It would be cool if this thing could track me as I'm walking away from the camera, so I can do more variety of shots. But no biggie. If there's anything that I could change about the app, I wish that you could change the white balance on the same menu as the manual exposure. In order to access the white balance, you need to hit a different icon in a different menu. But there's more than enough room to have the white balance option right underneath the shutter speed and the ISO. Other than that, everything else is nice and easy with their scroll interface. But autofocus is a little interesting. Most of the time, it tracks and focuses well on me. But sometimes, it just doesn't work right away, and I would have to manually tap on the screen. Plus, it was a little unfortunate that while I was trying to film myself, only using gestures, turns out I was out of focus the entire time. And usually when it tracks you, it keeps you centered, and the autofocus box is also in the middle. So why didn't it work? Overall, I am happy with this gimbal, as it is able to track me even when I'm not using the ZY Camera app. I've tried using the Blackmagic camera app, and it still follows me so long as the gimbal uses the AI module. I think this is perfect for someone who does speaking engagements and likes to walk back and forth, left to right, as I think this is a great tool to have, as your phone is something that you will always have with you. You just need a decent cameraman, and not simply a tripod. All you have to do is unscrew this bottom tripod feet, and you can mount this to a light stand or a tripod. And then all you have to do is just show the gestures right before you start speaking, and you'll be set to record, follow, whatever you want to do. I even recently used the gimbal and AI module for FaceTime, which allowed me to multitask and walk around in my room while still being able to chat with my loved ones. When I was using this gimbal in the park, I found it to be as smooth as its name suggests. Even if you don't have the means to buy the AI module, I'm still very satisfied with how it performs as a standard gimbal. When you want to really film yourself more and make shots a little more dynamic, then you go ahead and skip a haircut or two to save up for this little guy. Better yet, cut your own hair. I mean, work for me. The AI functionality impressed me more than I thought it would be. This is the second time that I've ever tried an AI integrated gimbal. The first one being the Ozbot Tail Air. Well, it's only a 2-axis stabilized camera, but it's similar since it uses gesture camera controls and tracking. Zhiyun's AI tracking may not be entirely perfect in terms of tracking you through objects as you walk past them, especially when you immediately move out of frame, but for the most part, as long as my head and my hands were in the frame, it responded immediately and worked just as intended. It mostly tried to keep me in the center and somewhere in the middle where I was moving, and it kept up with my pace. It's most likely better to keep me in the middle rather than keep me on the edges, since all it takes is a couple steps to walk out of frame and just lose the tracking altogether. And at that point, as soon as you walk out of frame, the gimbal will not continue to pan and search for you. If you were not found in the frame, it won't move. In terms of the extra fill light that the gimbal provides, I personally don't have a use for this feature, but I guess this is kind of what it would look like as well if you were to film yourself at night, walking in the city or whatever. And if you need to keep that light on as long as possible, do note that the battery life is rated to last for 26 hours in standby mode, 7 hours with the AI tracker and built-in light on, and if you're going to use 2 light modules and the built-in light in the arm, this gimbal will last 2 hours and 20 minutes. At least this is what Zhiyun says. And I believe this is plenty enough battery life to shoot the shots that you need to shoot. Normally, reasons to stress out the battery life on a gimbal are for things like prolonged usage, such as doing a time lapse that lasts a long time. But other than that, if you really know what kind of shots that you want to take, especially with the shot list, you'll have plenty of battery left over. But if you find yourself needing to charge this gimbal, it does support PD charging or power delivery charging, and can charge all the way up to 100% in 3.5 hours. Most likely, if you travel with a battery bank for your phone, you have a quick battery source for your Smooth 5. For the standard version, it's gonna cost $169 US for the gimbal and tripod feet, along with a year's worth of Zhiyun Prime for the pro features. For the combo, that includes a magnetic AI module, it's $219. And for the pro combo, that includes the previous items, a wristlet, a carrying case, an additional light module, and the mini light gels, it's gonna be $249. I personally believe the standard version is more than enough for most people, but if you really want to use the AI features for tracking, especially when you're not too comfortable using the gimbal, or just want to have more freedom to track yourself, then the combo version is worth looking into. Now, if you want to maximize the Smooth 5S AI gimbal by having full access to things like the Steadicam app, Zhiyun has different subscription options as follows. There is Zhiyun Prime and Zhiyun Prime Plus. When you purchase any version of the gimbal, you automatically get 1 year of Zhiyun Prime. Normally, signing up for Prime only covers the ZY Cami app for things like smart templates, live streaming stuff, as well as other upload privileges. But if you want those extra monitoring features in the Steadicam app too, then you have to sign up for the Zhiyun Prime Plus, which gives you all the previous benefits as well as those monitoring tools. Generally, I'm not a fan of additional subscription plans on top of my existing ones, so think what you will. I still find that the ZY Cami app is plenty enough for most users, as it still maintains full exposure controls as well as grid lines, which is great for composition for beginners and pros alike. Although the Steadicam offers the same manual and zoom controls, it does not give you grid lines for free, but it gives you a histogram for free, so pick which you'd rather have. Personally, if you're going to use this as a straight up gimbal, you could also maximize the look of your footage and your tools by using something like the Blackmagic camera app, where I am using Apple Log to get all the nice information from my shots and being able to color correct and grade later in post. My only issue with that is the limitation of storage. So if you'd like to see me put this phone in the camera cage and build it out a little more, let me know in the comments and we could probably get that together and see what that's like. So who should really be looking into this gimbal? I say this is for the curious and inspired beginners in the video world. Pros are most likely using cameras other than their phone to create YouTube videos and the like. But beginners and prosumers can take this gimbal and really integrate it into the creative workflow and film things like behind the scenes, or even try to use this as a second angle if you can't afford like a second camera body or lens. Or maybe you already have pro camera bodies but don't want to carry them around. So this gimbal and phone are your next best option. You want to get nice professional looking footage without having to carry your heavy camera gear. Although I wouldn't be the first to say that you should use this to chase down high-end clients and shoot their wedding, commercial, or even interviews with your phone and gimbal, I do believe that you could very well shoot complimentary videos for that kind of stuff. Shoot the behind the scenes, the vlogs, and even the spec ads. In the world of video, you just need the camera, the lens, and computer to edit it on and share. The biggest mistake that any aspiring creator can make is buying expensive gear and figuring out that you don't actually use it or need it. So instead, start making stuff and then you can find out which creative tools can solve your creative problems that you can only discover through creating. And one of the first problems that any creator will run into is shaky footage. And having stable footage is already going to separate you from those who can only and are going to shoot handheld. I enjoyed my time with the gimbal, and the best part of it all was the convenience of being able to film pro-looking footage and being able to relive those moments immediately at the hands of my phone. Smartphone footage can still look great, and a gimbal is an easy way to show it off. So if you're ready to actually put the stability to use, I have 2 videos over here that'll help you make your footage more cinematic with movement.